And I just turned around and I hauled ass out of there. I was done. I wasn't dealing with that.
The hypocrisy of the cult is one of the things that turned me away the quickest.
When I turned my headlights on, it turned and looked at us, and one of the things I remember the most were the eyes were glowing red.
I see an orb of light. It is just circling these steps like it is waiting for me.
And he begins to tell them that he saw a UFO. They're basically like, what are you talking about? That's 7 foot up on a tree, peeking around it, and that's where I saw the top of the muzzle, nose, and the eyes. As soon as I made eye contact with this thing, it felt like death.
I'd like to take this time to welcome my guest tonight, Cynthia. Thanks for coming on here and talking to me.
Thanks for having me on. I've been looking forward to this.
Would you like to let the audience know a little bit about yourself?
Sure. You can find me on Facebook, Cyn Shrader Hill author. My group is also on there, Elk Valley Paranormal. You can go to my website, elkvalleyparanormal.com. I have 5 books on Amazon, currently working on 6, 7, and 8. And I'm also editing other people's books at the same time. So those are all on Amazon. And again, Cyn Shrader Hill. If you've got a story for me that you'd like for me to consider in one of my books, you can reach me at cynshraiderhillauthor@gmail.com.
I'll make sure to put that in the show notes.
Okay.
So what sort of books do you write?
Mostly true ghost stories.
Okay.
I started my first book. I really wanted to bring out about my EVPs because that was what I enjoyed doing most, working with audio. I just couldn't figure out how to do it. So it became my third book. And I decided to go ahead and get some short stories out. And I put out Whispers in the Dark, True Ghost Stories and Eerie Tales, which is mostly about this county, Lincoln County, Tennessee, which is just north of Huntsville, Alabama. We're in southern middle Tennessee, right in the middle below Nashville. And there are 23 short stories. 18 of them are here in the county. The others, one was when I lived in Arizona, one when I was on vacation in Helen, Georgia. And then a couple of my teammates had some stories. So we put in that. I've also got a 2-parter from Lynchburg, Tennessee, where Jack Daniels is made at the old funeral home there. So that was the first one. The second one was a fiction book that Mark and I decided to write, Mark Elliott Fultz. He's the one that does the covers and the illustrations on all my books, and I edit in return for him. So he does all of the illustrations and covers, and I edit.
Okay.
And that's how we make it work.
Mm-hmm.
But I just finished his cookbook, which is my mean old grandma's good old cookbook with 1,788 recipes. This thing's like a phone book. It's a freaking phone book. But he's got things in there like Sin Eater story, funeral foods, the Frozen Charlotte story, where the girl was too vain to wear a coat over her nice ball gown when she was going to this festival during a snowstorm, and when she got there, she was frozen stiff. So that started back in the 1800s, I think, and it was a song, a poem, a story. That's what all the China dolls are fashioned after. And then this dessert that people started doing, and it's called Frozen Charlotte. And the dessert actually sounds pretty good. It's when they kind of first figured out how to work with gelatin and putting all that together. So that cookbook was interesting. He's also got a Ugly Sister Side, which there's a warning to anybody that gets the book. If you're squeamish, don't go into that section. And it's got things like deer haggis, regular haggis, deer haggis. His recipe uses the heart, and the other is lung and different parts. There's ways to kill possums, raccoons, just, all this kind of weird stuff that he has collected these recipes over the years. His grandmother was a fantastic cook, but not such a fantastic person. And that's why it's called my mean old grandma. But finally got that done after 14 and a half months. So now I can concentrate on my books again.
Yeah.
And I started working on my fourth book back in 2020, and it was on signs from our loved ones. And I didn't really have a lot, but I put a feeler out on Facebook for stories about anyone that has had a vision of their loved one that's passed, or deathbed stories, or, cardinals, pennies from heaven, all that kind of stuff. So that book sparked a sequel, and I'm working on that sequel right now. It did have near-death experiences in the first one, but this time for the sequel, I was getting so many near-death experience stories, I decided to separate those. So the first book I'm bringing out next, which will be number 6, is going to be Death's Doorstep, near-death experiences, angel rescues, and spirit warnings. So a lot of near misses and things like that. And then right after that will be the Signs sequel that will feature everything else, including animal spirits that come back and, say hi to you, or jump up on the bed and, whatever, just anything like that. And then a spooky book coming out. So the last one I did was Realm of Shadows, and it was some of the darker investigations I've been on, and a lot that my friends had sent me, that weird things that had happened to them, like faces changing and, just odd circumstances, things like that. So another dark book of short stories is coming out as number 8. We'll see what happens. We'll see when I can bring them out.
So what got you into doing all of this? Obviously, I always say there's something that drives people into going this route. Like, it's not just something you wake up one day and be like, hey, I'm going to start writing books about weird stuff.
Right? Yeah. Well, I started editing first for Mark, and I knew I wanted to write a book, but just didn't know how to go about it. Didn't really know what to write about. And then when I started investigating, I was collecting all of my recordings, going through all the audio. And that third book that was supposed to be my first one, I finally figured out how to get it across. So it's They're Speaking, Are You Listening? My Most Compelling EVPs. And you can read the book or the Kindle, either one, paperback or Kindle, and then go to my website, elkvalleyparanormal.com, and listen to all of the EVPs that are in the book. So that finally came together for me. But before that, I'm really late to the game. I didn't start investigating it until 2013, and I really didn't know how to go about it. So I joined a team, and they trained me. I knew I wanted my own team, but, I didn't know what to do. I didn't know about equipment. I didn't know about locations. I didn't know about any of that stuff. And I still am learning. But this first team trained me, and I found out really fast that I was fascinated with audio, and I liked the spirit box, where, there's a lot of investigators that hate it. My co-founder hates it, cannot stand it. He's like, oh, please, Cyn, just wait till I leave the room before you turn that thing on. And I think a lot of people feel that way because it's just noisy, loud, and, it's irritating. But I liked it. And for some reason, I could find some of the voices easier. Like when you're listening to the spirit box, it was easier for me to pick up on some of the voices. I don't know why. Sean is my co-founder. He's a skeptic. So that was his thing. He's the best debunker that I've ever met.
Mm-hmm.
And he's such a good debunker, but and a skeptic, but also he's been doing it long enough and he's seen enough that he can't explain everything. So, you get to that and having to try to explain, okay, that shadow, that really was a shadow. And if I remember him telling the story about the old hospital, he had taken some of our group on the public hunt down the hallway, and we were lights out, and he had taken like I think three of them down the hallway. We had about 7 or 8. And then he realized that they were a little bit farther behind him than he thought. So he was down the hall by himself, and he looked in front of him and a shadow was in front of him. At first, he thought it was his shadow until it started vibrating. And he said that was the scariest thing, because all of a sudden he looked back, he was by himself, he looked back at the shadow, and it flipped down the hallway and into one of the patient rooms. So he's seen more now, and he can't claim complete skepticism. So that's a fun thing.
I try and say I'm a skeptic, but I'm a lot more open-minded these days than I used to be.
And you kind of have to be a skeptic, especially now. With all the AI coming out,
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to look at some things. And if you don't know the person if you don't really know that person, it's hard to say, oh yeah, that's paranormal. Oh yeah, that's supernatural. Oh, that's definitely a ghost. Or it's harder now to figure out what's real and what's not.
I'm more involved with the whole cryptid side of things, and I can't explain what people are seeing. I can't explain the things that I've seen, but at the same time, it's like I see all these people posting up photos, everything, and all I see is blurry photos. I don't see what they think is there. And then I get argued with sometimes by people because I don't see it.
The cryptid photos I've seen, like out in the woods, I can't find what they're saying is there. I can't find it. But
I saw something yesterday, and I doubt they listen to the show, but if they do, I don't really care. They'd circled something, and it says there was something crawling behind them, and literally it was a stump. I could tell it looked just like a stump from a tree.
Mm-hmm.
And then they drew little eyeballs on it. I was like,
no.
I was like, no. I was like, it's just a blurry stump because your photos are blurry. Like, if you guys legitimately are seeing things and that's what they show up there, don't argue with people and tell them that they can't see what you're seeing because maybe there's something wrong with what you're seeing.
Right.
So.
Right. You're again.
They want to blame it on
AI jumping in.
They want to blame it on everyone else not being open-minded enough, but maybe there's something wrong with the way your mind processes things. I honestly believe they believe what they're seeing.
Oh, some people do, but what is it? Pareidolia?
Yeah.
And then there's also the audio. You think you hear something and you don't. I can't think of that word. But, it's a real thing.
Yeah.
So you're mostly cryptid then, right?
For the most part, that is, paranormal for me is not, I don't want to sound like I'm not interested in it, but I feel like for that, I kind of live in it. So it's not different for me because I deal with it all the time. So like the house we live in, I feel like there's something here. It's been that way since we've moved in. So it's just an everyday thing here. Like I said, we don't talk about it. We don't want to try to give anything power. We just ignore it.
Yeah.
And
that's the best thing to do.
I've tried to banish whatever's here, and I don't know if it's gone. I don't know if it's back. Every once in a while, something weird happens, and it could be paranormal, or it could just be the house. Who knows?
Yeah.
But we have kids and everything else, so I try not to talk about it a whole lot because then they start getting creeped out by it.
Mm-hmm. Mhm.
But I've also seen some weird things before that are not normal, that would be considered a cryptid. I don't necessarily even believe in that either, but I know what I saw, so that's kind of why I do what I do, because of what I saw 18 years ago.
Interesting. Very interesting. I'm really new to the cryptid side. Um, just because I was brought up around ghost stories and that kind of thing. I had heard about Bigfoot, and I had never actually heard about the one around where I live now. So I'm in Tennessee, in Lincoln County, and I live in the town my dad is from. So he's from Flintville, Tennessee, and that's 15 miles from where I was born. Swore when I was in high school that I'd never come back here, never ever come back here, and I'm back.
Every time someone says that, they come right back. Exactly. I've said the same thing, and here I am.
Oh man, it gets you every time. Well, around this little village, Flintville, there's a cryptid known as the Flintville Monster.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like a white Bigfoot. And I was talking to a buddy of mine, Bob Dahl. He lives just right down the road, like maybe 20 minutes from me. But he was talking about this Flintville Monster. And he's actually got a documentary coming out, I think next Friday, probably, about the Flintville Monster. Started in the 70s, 1970s. And it was more of an aggressive Bigfoot. And I put the question out to a couple of people. So is it white because it's an older Bigfoot? Or is it like the Yeti? Is something like that? Or, nobody knows.
Yeah, it
was interesting, though, to find out.
You hear that there's black ones, there's brown ones, there's like tan ones, there's like amber colored ones. Some say there's some with like redheaded people, and some say there's white and blonde. Like,
wow,
who knows? Like,
who knows, right? And isn't skunk ape? Isn't that's like a type of it?
Yep, that's down in the Everglades. They had the skunk ape, which they claim those were smaller, I believe, and they were more red, like redheaded, more red colored. But you could smell them. They had a pungent smell like a skunk. Again, I've never personally seen a Bigfoot, so I don't know. Like, I would like to believe that there's something out there, but I'm also, again, with the skeptical mind of, if there is something out there, how come we don't have proof of it at this point? Everyone has a phone in their pocket. There's cameras on houses and buildings. There's never been a body anywhere. So for me, logistically and like logically, it just doesn't make sense because there's never been any definitive proof.
Right.
So as much as I want to believe, I'm still on that side of, I still have to have some sort of proof to believe it.
I'm gonna have to have some proof too. I'm gonna have to see it with my own eyes. And who knows if that will ever happen. But I'm like 5 miles from where this particular monster has been seen over the years. The strange thing about it, growing up, Dad never talked about a Flintville monster, ever. He talked about a Flintville light that was around the railroad tracks. But, there's several of those stories. Like somebody gets their head chopped off and they're walking down the tracks looking for their head. There's one from Cornersville, Tennessee, here in Flintville. And I'm sure you've probably heard of others around the country that are like that.
Everyone has a story of a guy with a hook. Everyone has the guy walking around looking for something down Lover's Lane. Everyone has there's all these urban legends.
Crybaby Bridge.
Yeah.
There's some of those. All kinds.
It makes you wonder, though, like, where they originated from. Something had to influence the story.
It had to.
And I don't know if it's just people had nothing better to do, so they just made up stuff, but then just kind of trickled along. But if you look back, just back to Bigfoot stories, the Native Americans all over had stories of large hairy men. Like they've talked about them, and there's out west, there's like cave paintings of them. So
Interesting.
how do you explain that?
Yeah.
So I don't know.
I didn't know there were cave paintings of them.
Unless they're not real, but people have claimed that they've got like this in the stones where they've carved things, and people are saying they're Bigfoot because they're bigger than what other things look like. You've got like a deer and then a buffalo. There's like something that looks like a Bigfoot in the background. But there's also stuff that looks like aliens too. So who knows? Maybe they're just people and they just didn't know how to draw them.
Yeah.
So, like I said, that's the skeptic side of me. Is like I want to believe, but at the same time, it's going to take more than just hearing it. No, but I've talked to so many people that have had experiences that it's hard to not think that they're seeing something.
You know, they almost have to be. And with so many people that have seen a Bigfoot or Mothman or whatever, they've had to see something.
There's something, and I've said this a few different times. I believe that people are seeing something, but it doesn't necessarily mean that what they're seeing is what they think they're seeing. And I don't mean that to say that it's misidentification.
Mm-mm.
Maybe they're seeing something because that's what it wants them to see it as.
Oh, could very well be, yeah.
Now I can't explain like if it leaves like a footprint behind or stuff like that, but what if there's something out there that when we see it, our mind only processes it in a way that we can understand it, so it makes itself into a form that we can understand, and that's just what it ends up looking like.
Right. That's a good take on it. And that very well could be.
I don't know anything about anything, so I'm just a guy with a microphone. But
I don't know. That's a pretty good take on it, though. You know, even like I've got a great imagination. So if you're telling me a story, I'm picturing it. And it could be, too, these people are going out after watching a movie or a Bigfoot documentary or Mothman documentary or whatever they're watching. Bunny Man, Dog Man. You know, there's so many of them. I can't keep up. And maybe it being in their head, them thinking about it, and then something moves in the bushes. They take a picture. Oh, my God, it's Dog Man. You know?
Mm-hmm.
It could very well be.
It's funny you mentioned Dog Man because that's what I saw. I don't call it Dog Man, though.
What do you call it?
An upright walking canine.
I like it.
Everyone's, you're just being a dog man. Well, yes and no. Like it literally would look like a dead dog in the road, and then it stood up like a person and looked at me. I was 15 feet from it, and then it crouched down and walked off on 2 feet.
Wow.
Me and another guy had seen it. As much everyone's like, "Oh, you saw a black bear." I was like, "I wish it was a bear. My life would be so much easier." But I there's headlights shining on it from 2 different vehicles. I'm outside thinking it's a dead dog on the road. It's not a bear. It had a long bushy tail. I know what a dog looks like. It looked like a black wolf.
Wow.
But it stood up like a person. So.
Oh, wow.
And I don't believe in any of this stuff, but I know what I saw.
But when that happened, did chills just take over?
No, I wasn't afraid. I was just more like confused. I'm like, what the hell's going on? Like, what is this thing doing? Like, why is it standing up? Like, yeah, I wasn't like running away. And then now the guy behind me, my coworker, was screaming and cussing at me to get back in the vehicle. But
so he's the one that got the chill bumps.
He doesn't want to talk about it after that. And then I haven't seen him in years. This was 18 years ago, but he didn't want to talk about it after that. And he said it was just a dog and he just shut up about it, and basically said, if I keep bringing it up, he's not going to talk about it. So I don't know.
He saw it walk on 2 legs.
I assume so, but for all intents and purposes, it looked like a normal dog. It looked like a normal black wolf-looking dog, but I don't know. When it stood up, I heard him screaming for me to get back in the vehicle. So I'm assuming he saw that much.
Yeah.
So
I think he probably did. Wow. Oh, that's kind of creepy.
like I said,
Yeah.
that's literally why I do what I do, because I've been looking for answers for all these years and never talked about it for so long because it's so unbelievable that there's a lot more to it than that. I just don't want to talk about it on air. And
Yeah.
it just doesn't make any sort of sense. The whole thing itself just doesn't make sense to me. And I've just been looking for answers. And the more that I've been looking for answers, I haven't found any. I get more questions. I'm actually doing a documentary. You mentioned what Bob was doing, a documentary. I'm working on one here too. I just actually got all my filming equipment in today.
Nice.
We've already filmed a bunch of different interviews, but there's been people in my area that I've come to find out from just doing this that have all reported seeing quote unquote werewolves. And then I started digging into the Native American legends, and they have stories of wolf people.
Yeah.
So like, there's just a whole lot of lore tied into this stuff. And it's weird that people have, and it's been in the same exact spot, like the same exact location. I've had 3 different people talk about seeing what they said was a werewolf. And it's a very small area. So that's kind of weird that it all happens right in this small area. But so now we've already filmed the interviews and everything else. Now it's time to get out in the woods and start filming.
That's awesome. I can't wait to see that.
Hopefully we'll be done with it here in the next few months.
Awesome. You're gonna post when you've got that ready, right?
There's some distribution things we have to work out, so I don't know exactly when it'll be out, but there's some behind the scenes stuff we're still trying to figure out. But
so this happened 18 years ago. And you kept it in for a while. How long did you keep it in before you actually told somebody?
Well, I told people right after it happened.
Did you?
Yeah, and everyone kind of like, they didn't not believe me, but it's just like, what are they supposed to say? Like,
what do you say?
I interviewed my friend who was, I literally saw him, I think later that day that it happened. He'd seen some weird stuff. He swears he's seen an alien walk out of a cornfield, turn around, and walk back in. And I've known him almost my whole life, and he's not known to be a liar. And he'd brought it up about when I'd seen that thing. Like, we didn't ever, like, I told my parents about it, and I still lived at home at the time. And a few people knew, but I don't go around telling anyone else about it because people are going to think you're crazy.
Yeah.
But because of that stigma is why I wanted to do what I do, because I did it in a sense to give people a place to talk. For so many years, I couldn't talk about it. But at the same time, it's kind of therapeutic for me because when I hear other people talking about what they've experienced, it makes me not feel so bad about what had happened to me, because then I'm like, well, maybe I'm not crazy.
Right.
So,
right.
It kind of.
I think that's why so many people are listening to podcasts. They're needing that validation too.
I just tried and give people a place to talk, and I'm not here to prove or disprove anybody, because half the time I don't even believe what happened to me, even though I know it happened.
Right.
So it's just weird. I'm not going to tell someone whatever they're telling me is not true because I wasn't there. I get annoyed when people tell me I saw a bear. I was like, yeah, I wish it was a bear, but I know what a bear looks like. A bear doesn't have a big bushy tail like a dog. Like, so it's a bear with mange. Like, no, it had big, fluffy black fur, and it didn't have like the werewolf hands. It did have paws. Like, everything about it was a normal dog.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Just,
speaking of like mangy, like you said, there's a cryptid in Appalachia called knot deer. Have you heard of that one? And some people think that might be some deer that have gotten some kind of disease and have been malformed and that kind of thing. But
It's funny you mentioned this because about a month and a half ago, maybe 2 months ago now, my mom and dad were over here visiting. They live a few miles away, but they came over to see the grandkids. And my mom messaged me on the way back and said they just seen a bunch of zombie deer. And the first thing I thought of was not deer because
Not deer.
yeah. And I said, why? And they said they all just were like standing there, not moving, and their eyes were like glowing. Well, obviously their headlights are hitting it. But they said they were just
Yeah.
weird acting. Like they wouldn't move out of the road or anything else. And they just stood there and watched them the whole time. Like they didn't, not like a normal, they even beeped out there and they just didn't care. They didn't move. Their bodies didn't move. Like I said, did they look like they were decayed? And they're like, no. I was like, oh, well, then why do you call them zombies? They're like, well, just because they're in a trance. They weren't doing anything. I was like, well, it's still weird that they would do that. But that's like, it's not what I was thinking of when you said zombie deer. I instantly went to not deer.
Yeah.
But I don't know. We have weird things apparently around here.
Yeah, I think everywhere. And I don't know, maybe. Okay, so what do you think about thought forms?
What do you mean?
And so many people thinking something and then it creates it.
Like an egregore?
Mm-hmm.
I've actually considered this before, that people put all their focus and energy into something that it manifested. But if you go into that sort of context with it, you start to think of a simulation type of a scenario. Like we're giving life to something by thinking it. How can we create something just by thinking it? So it doesn't seem like the way we understand how life is supposed to be, how we're taught it to be, doesn't make any sense if that's a possibility.
Right.
So it feels like, to me, like everything's more, and not to go on a whole simulation theory type situation, but for me, it's like, I don't think we're in a simulation, but I feel like maybe our world is a little different we're in the 3D world.
Yeah.
So maybe there's the fourth dimension that we can't see. And I look at it like levels from a video game. We're on level 3, there's level 4, there's level 5. Maybe some of these things that we're seeing are from a different plane of existence. And sometimes we see them in here. And I even relate this to like paranormal stuff. Like when people see shadow figures and everything else, maybe they are something from the other plane of existence that's just bleeding into our reality. We can only see part of it because it's not fully taking form here, because it's not in the same laws of physics as what they have there.
Right. I think possibly that's a Bigfoot thing too.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the forest is one of the easiest places to get turned around in and disoriented in, and to make you feel a little bit off. And so if these things are popping up and then popping out again, you've got all the weirdness of the forest anyway. It's a possibility. Maybe they are coming in and out.
I said this on a previous episode, and I've said it on a few different ones, and I'll continue to bring it up, so I'm sure the audience will hate hearing it, but I interviewed someone back in the summer, and he was an author too, and he wrote a book called Bigfoot, the Forest Poltergeist. And if you think of how he describes this, it makes a lot of sense. He said, basically, people that live in a house and you have all this activity or whatever, you're going to say you have a poltergeist. Well, it's the same sort of stuff that people report with seeing Bigfoot out in the woods. You have the noises, you have the knocks, you have the different things moving around. He said, if you put Bigfoot in a house, you're going to say your house is haunted. But if you put it out in the woods, it's Bigfoot.
Yeah.
So he said Bigfoot is almost like the forest poltergeist.
Interesting. That's a great look. Yeah. I like that.
So ever since I've talked to him, I've literally went down that way. I was like, that makes so much sense to me.
Yeah.
So
yeah, because we're so used to seeing ghosts in places and, haunting certain areas, or popping in at certain times of the year or whatever. But they're usually specific to a spot.
Yeah.
So I like that.
It makes sense to me. And if you go like what I was describing, like if the Bigfoot is something if it's I don't want to say it's not a flesh and blood creature, but I don't want to say it's not just a flesh and blood creature either. Because there's a lot of weird stuff that people report happening with Bigfoot. And I'm friends with people that are straight up full on Bigfoot's an undiscovered primate. They don't believe in the woo side. They don't believe in any of that stuff. And they can pinpoint why it's not true. Okay, well, that's great. Well, can you pinpoint the fact that Bigfoot exists?
Yeah.
You can tell me that it's not supernatural because at least footprints or at least fur, this and that. Okay, well, can you prove that it even exists? Because you might have this stuff here. You're saying that's part of a Bigfoot, but where's the body of it? Where do they go?
Yeah,
where's the bones?
Any bone. Yeah, any bone.
So just because you can have this sort of stuff to say this thing is possibly out there, you can't also rule out the fact that this thing could be something a little bit different that we don't understand either.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just how I come with it. I am the person that will argue with any expert because I don't believe there's an expert in any of these fields because
there's not.
Everyone wants to claim they're an expert, but they're not.
There's not. And we're all still learning from each other.
Mm-hmm.
And if we would just listen to each other, that's the big thing. Instead of arguing, just listen. Just listen.
The one thing I've noticed is the paranormal field, the cryptid field, the UFO fields, everyone wants to argue with each other. Instead of working together, everyone wants to be the first person to make a claim at something and they're going to die on that hill because they won't be open-minded about anything because they think they know what they're talking about. And anyone else that has a different opinion's wrong.
That's right.
Well, if that's your mindset, that's why nothing's being accomplished because you're too busy in your own ego.
Thank you. Exactly. That's another reason I like doing co-investigations with other teams. I really enjoy that because you learn something new. I don't care if it's one little thing that they do differently with a recorder or whatever. You can learn something. And you should always be open to learning it because nobody knows everything.
Right. Yeah, I'm the only person that I'm really like, I don't like socializing myself. That sounds weird, but like, I don't have any friends or anything that's into this sort of stuff in general. So I don't really talk to a whole lot of people about this type of thing. So doing the shows where I get to communicate with some people, but I don't go out there to argue and prove anything to people because I don't know anything. And I'm a first person that will admit to that. Like, but I also understand, I don't think a lot of people know anything either. Like, we all have good opinions.
Right.
But that's not proof.
And we know what we've experienced.
Right.
But that's it. That's it. I know what I've seen. I know what I've heard. I know what I've felt in different spots. And two, somebody can argue with me all day long about, well, what your EVP says is not what you say it does. Okay. But that's what I hear. That's what I hear. That's what I got out of it. So I had my nephew. We started writing the science book in 2020, and then COVID hit, and everybody lost motivation. I lost motivation to write. I didn't get it back the next year. I didn't get it back until 2022. And so I picked up my book and started writing it again. And this was Signs of Our Loved Ones. And a month later, I lost Wyatt. Now, Wyatt was 19 and a half, my only nephew. He was the only grandson in the family. He was only child. And his mother had been told she would never carry a kid to term. She might get pregnant, but she wouldn't be able to carry one. But she carried Wyatt. And so Wyatt was he was all of ours. And I was actually training him to be my videographer for Elk Valley Paranormal. And he was listening to Sean and me when we were on investigations. And Sean, when he was talking to Spirit, he would say, if you're here, if anybody's here and would like to talk to us, get as close as you can to that red dot and talk as loud as you can. Hopefully we can hear you. So a few months after Wyatt died, and he had shown himself to his mom, he'd shown himself to his grandmother. I hadn't gotten any sign. I thought I heard him come through static on the radio. I don't know if that's because I wanted to or if I really did, but I put it out there like that. I think I heard it, but I'm not sure. I don't know. And then I realized that that's why I lost motivation to write this book, because I was supposed to put his story in there and of all the things that were popping up that he was doing. So he died. We're coming up on an angelversary. He died April the 6th, 2022. And in February 23, the 23rd of February 23, my sister was telling me the story of a vision she'd had of him visiting. And this dream where she woke up and he's there. And she said she was afraid to blink. She was afraid to move because she didn't want him to leave, right? And so she's telling me this story. I'm recording it on my phone. We're sitting there. The TV is on, but on mute. Her dog is asleep and her cat's asleep. And it's just her and me. And we're in her and Wyatt's house. So she had shut Wyatt's door so she could go in there anytime, so she could smell him, you know, that kind of thing. And it was just the way he'd left his room. It was another month or two before I could even open that file back up to transfer it, to transcribe it. So I'm on my couch transcribing this story, and I get 6 minutes and 42 seconds in, and I hear Wyatt's voice. And it shocked the hell out of me. And I rewound. I thought, did I hear that? And I played it again, and it was Wyatt. He was talking to me. And I went and banged on the bathroom door and to see if my husband had gotten in the shower yet. And he said, "What's wrong? What's wrong?" I said, "I need you to come sit down." He said, "What's wrong? Who's sick?" I said, "I just need you to sit down." And I played it for him. And he looked at me and he said, "That's Wyatt." I said, "Yeah, that's Wyatt." He had listened to Sean saying, "Get as close as you can to that red dot, talk as loud as you can." And he did.
Do you mind if I ask what he said?
Do you want me to play it?
If you have it, you can.
Yeah. Just know that it is on my phone.
Mm-hmm.
I did have, of course, people say, "Well, it was on your phone. Are you sure you didn't tape over something?" Or
That doesn't
you
work
didn't
that way.
have his voice playing somewhere else. No. And I have told several people, whether or not anybody believes me, I don't care, because I know this was to me from him. So take me just a second. What happened? You're going to hear my sister talking. She's telling me this story.
Who drove in El Camino. And I said, "Yeah." And then he said,
"Did you hear that?"
Then he said,
Did you hear that?
Yeah.
Because I was plain as day.
Right? That is the clearest and the loudest EVP I've ever heard of, much less gotten myself. But there's two little taps that we didn't hear at that time, and he taps on something right before he says that.
Hmm.
Do you want to hear it one more time?
Yeah, if you would.
Yeah. Okay. Tell me what happened.
And I said, yeah. And then he
Did
said,
you hear that?
Then he said,
I've never heard an EVP that clear and that loud.
I haven't either.
It literally sounds like a normal person speaking into it.
Like he's right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And because most of my EVPs are whispers.
Mm-hmm.
It's out. And things like that.
I've had a few people send me stuff to clean up for them. And I've increased the audio. I've tried to get rid of some of the background noise and everything. And you can hear things here and there, but it's hard to make out. And then there was one that was actually, you could hear it sound like a little girl, almost like a laughing noise or something. Now, I don't know where they recorded this at, so I can't say one way or the other what it is or not, but I just know I seen it on my computer, like there's something there. So I got into that audio, brought it up, and it sounded like a little kid. So where they're telling me that they hear this at, I was like, well, there should be no kid there, but who knows? But again, I've never heard it sound like that. It's been very quiet, and you got more of a hissy sound to it because it's picking up all the background noise and everything else, so it has more of a hiss. That's just straight up sounds like someone talking right into a microphone.
Yeah. Yeah. Like they're right there with you.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't explain it. And other than if I had been thinking, he knew I worked with audio and he was a musician. So if I had just been thinking, I would have been trying to listen to anything I had recorded over the last several months. But I hadn't, because I don't think I was ready for one. But this was my message from Wyatt.
But as far as I know, I think there's a lot to it. I want to have this say, like, I don't think that when we just die that I want to believe that there's more to life than just, I feel like there's something else. It has to be. Otherwise I want to have that hope.
Right.
So I don't want to go out and say that I don't believe in that sort of stuff, but at the same time, I'm also not a very religious type of a person either. So I don't really align with any sort of afterlife in that sense. But I feel like there's something.
Yeah. But you have to be skeptical about everything, I think, now.
Yeah.
Especially now. But I think that's where everybody's getting wrapped up in themselves, trying to debunk everything, which you should try to debunk everything you can, especially if it's your stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Try to debunk as best as you can any kind of idea you can come up with that could possibly be a far-fetched reason for it not to be something not of this world. But then that's where they get into bickering and no, it can't be this because of this. Well, how do you know?
No one wants to be the person that says that they're wrong.
No.
I'm wrong all the time. Even though
I'm wrong more than you are.
Even though my last name is Wright, so I'm always right, but I'm a lot more wrong than I usually am right, I feel like.
I like that. I'm always wrong about everything. And I think if more of us would act like that instead of acting like we know everything, we'd get along a lot better. But I don't think that's going to happen.
Not to sound like a Debbie Downer, but I don't foresee that happening. We are what we are. And
Yeah.
people are set in their ways, and I don't see it changing anyway, at least anytime soon.
No.
Maybe
and
not.
It seems like everybody's trying to one up. Oh, you got this. Well, I've got this.
There's always someone that's the one-upper.
Mm-hmm.
And even though half their one-up stuff's probably bullshit, but
Right.
that just is, I can be blunt sometimes.
I like that. We need more of that.
That's the one thing that people that know me personally, a lot of the podcast people or the listeners or anything, they don't know me because they don't actually, they see me on here or they hear me on here. They don't even really see me, but they don't know the actual side of me. A lot of people are like, oh, he's really monotone. You never know what he's thinking. And like, I'm that way in real life too, but I'm very outspoken. And a lot of people always would say I'm kind of an asshole but I would rather tell it like it is than sugarcoat it for people.
I like that.
And I can't always do that here because that's not what the show's about. But on certain topics or whatever, I'll just be as boneheaded as everyone else and stubborn. Like, you're not going to tell me this is 100% fact because I know it's not.
No, none of this is.
So
none of this is. And even on my EVP, did I see Wyatt? No. Could I tell you he was standing right there by us? No, because I didn't see him. I just know what I hear when I play that. That's all I know.
And for anyone else, like, we don't know what he sounds like. So I've never heard his voice before, so I don't know if that's what his voice sounds like. And that's what you're going to get with people that listen and they're like, well, it's just someone talking. But if you know his voice, you know his voice.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I don't argue with people about stuff like that because, again, who the hell am I? And I wish people would take that sort of mantra about everything, but instead they just won't argue.
They need to take that, but they won't because they've got to one up.
Yeah.
They've got to prove they're better about something. I just want to learn as much as I can.
That's all I want to do is find answers and give people a place to hopefully listen, learn, and be entertained. And the entertaining part is actually something that I've struggled with because for me, I come from a musical background too. Like, I used to do metal band stuff. That's why I have the microphone. I had all the recording stuff because I used to do metal vocals. That's what I did. And
nice.
I don't do that anymore. I had to have an outlet for something. And I was like, I didn't know anything about podcasting. So I want to start a podcast. So I started listening to podcasts and realized that my ideas were not original because apparently there's a lot of podcasts that do this type of stuff. But here I am. And I enjoy it.
Well, that's the main thing, though, right there. You found something that you enjoy. You've also found an outlet.
Mm-hmm.
So
it gives me my creative outlet that I needed.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And again, if anyone knows me, I'm not a very outgoing person. So people think it's strange that I talk to all these people. But if you see me in person, I don't go out of my way to talk to people. Now, if someone comes up and talks to me, I'll talk, but I don't go out of my way just to talk to people.
You'd rather stand back and watch.
I'm very observant.
Yeah.
Everyone's hesitant to come up to me because I always look angry. So I have 10 different conventions that I'm going to be at this year. And I always try and bring my wife. I was like, I have to have someone that looks happy to be there because when I look there, like, I naturally have resting bitch face. So everyone's afraid to come up to me because they think I'm going to yell at them or something, or I look like I'm mad. I was like, this is me. This is just how I look. I'm not mad. I can't help how my face looks. But
is your wife going with you?
To some of them. She went to the couple with me last year, but I've got a lot more going on this year than I did last year.
That's a good thing.
I'll actually be in Tennessee on May 3rd. So.
Gatlinburg?
Kinda. It's Townsend. Just south.
Yeah, Bigfoot.
Yep. I have a booth.
No, I
have a booth
I had thought
there.
about that. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I said I have a booth there for that one.
Nice.
So I'm there, and then the end of May I'm in Kentucky at the Red River Gorge Bigfoot Festival, and then I'm up in Chicago for a paranormal festival in June, then like all summer and then all fall, like October, I think's every single weekend I'm somewhere all over the Midwest.
Really?
So.
Right now, I've just got one set up because I think I did too much last year, and my husband goes with me, and I think it wore him out. So I'm trying not to do as much this year, but I've got one con scheduled, and that's Goblin Con up in Hopkinsville.
I'm going to be there.
I'll get to meet you in person, resting bitch face or not.
No,
That's awesome.
Geraldine, I interviewed her last summer, and she reached out to me and said that they're actually doing a festival down there, if I'd be interested in it. So I got in contact with Eric, and I actually just paid the fee for it the other day. So everything
nice. I look forward to meeting you in person.
Yeah, I do too. It's weird for me because I've actually had people come up and be like, "Oh, I love your show," and I meet all these people. I used to be in a band, so I kind of met people from that, but it wasn't like the podcast. The podcast is a lot more popular than my bands ever were. So
isn't that funny?
No. So I get all these people that come up and talk to me, and I'm like, "Oh, hey, how you doing?" Like, I have no idea who you are, but
no, but they listen to you.
Yeah. So
that's awesome.
It's been cool. Like I said, I was at the Indiana Bigfoot conference last September, and I met a lot of people that apparently listened. I was like, well, I appreciate everyone that listens.
Absolutely. I am trying to talk myself into starting my own podcast and bring in different people to talk about their stories and, what got them going. But it's one of those things. I have not kicked myself in the butt hard enough to do it yet. I keep stressing out just a little bit too much and going, okay, no, mate, I'm not ready yet.
I didn't realize how many people do podcasts when I started.
There's a lot.
Now that I've been doing this, I feel like I see new ones every other day.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard to, I don't listen, and I don't want to sound like a dick, but I don't listen to other podcasts really because I'm always doing this.
Yeah.
Like I work a full-time job. I have 4 kids. They all do sports. I'm married. I come out here and I record like 3 to 4 times a week. And then I have to edit everything. I don't have time to listen to anyone else's stuff. So
when would you?
I used to when I drove a lot for work, and I'm about to start driving about an hour and a half one direction to get to my work here in the next couple of weeks. So I'll start to be able to listen to stuff again. But for the past almost 2 years, I've either been working from home or I drove for 15 minutes. So I'm not listening to anything.
Right.
So there's a lot of shows that I don't listen to, but I never listened to a lot in the first place. Like I started this show without ever listening to podcasts. So I had no idea what I was doing, but apparently I figured something out. So
evidently you did.
All of that being said, if someone that has zero knowledge of anything about podcasting can be where I'm at now, like I encourage you to do it.
See, I've got to kick myself to do it. I've got to. I really do need to. I know I'd have fun at it.
This room is actually a lofted cabin, a pole barn, or not a pole, but one of those already put together barns that they come and deliver to you. And I converted it into a studio. Podcast pays for itself.
Nice.
It took me 2 years to get to the point to where I'm not losing money. So for the first 2 years, I was literally paying money, but I started to get to the point. So everything that I make for the podcast goes back into the podcast. So it covers the payment for this thing. It covers everything else I need. So it works out. So I don't lose money anymore. So there's at least that. Now, the stigma is that they think people are making money on podcasts. I will show you proof that I don't make money on podcasts. It all goes back in there. There's some people that might make a lot, but I'm not making a lot.
And I don't think most of them out there are making anything.
No, like it's very hard to get to that point. I'm on a specific agreement with a hosting service, so I get kick from that. Like I got offered to be on a Prime network, so I'm basically getting revenue from the ads they place in there, which people complain about hearing commercials. Like if you watch TV, you hear commercials.
You're going to hear them anyway.
Yeah.
Yep.
I don't like all the commercials on the show anyways, but it basically pays for me to do this show.
So why not have them?
Exactly. And if people don't like it, I have a Patreon. $2 a month, you get no ads, and you get all the episodes 2 months early.
Oh, that's incredible. That's another thing to think about then.
We've been booked for a while, but I'm usually 2 months ahead. I literally was just talking to one of my other friends that's a podcaster. I have enough stuff recorded already to get me through the first week of May. And I have enough stuff scheduled to get me through the end of July. And I could basically take the month of June and July off from doing anything, and I'd still have enough. That's providing everyone actually shows up for the interviews. That's the other thing. If you interview people, a lot of people tend to ghost you.
Oh, that's lovely.
That's why I have so many scheduled out, because before I used to get ghosted a lot by people.
Oh, no.
So, but now they haven't been doing that. So then I'm like way booked up. So I get so many episodes. I was like, oh, I'm not going to complain.
Well, I know when I was looking at you, trying to get your attention, and you were busy. You were super busy. And I know I had to reach back out because you were just super, super busy. So that's a good thing, though.
I feel really bad because I actually just scheduled a few people that reached out to me in December because I said I'd get back to them, but I get so bombarded. And then I will just post something and say, hey, I've got a couple openings. And then I get like 15 people messaging me. So I was like, all right, how do I figure out who? And then
oh, no.
I only have so many evenings that I can do something on. So, but softball and baseball season is now starting. This is the first year since I've been doing the show that I'm not coaching, so I shouldn't have to be too much involved with it, but I still want to be there for their games.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. I don't know how you coached and did all the above.
Everyone asked me the same thing. How do you do everything that you do? I was like, I don't know.
It just gets done somehow.
That's why I record at 9:00 at night, because at that point everyone goes to bed and I come out here.
This is like your quiet time, kind of.
For the most part. I used to record in the basement, but I had to get out of the basement because my two oldest are down in the basement, and some of these interviews go on past 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night, and then my kid's right outside the door. He's like, why are we talking about all that demonic stuff? I'm like, just go to sleep.
Yeah, it's not involving you.
No. Tell her mom in the morning, he was talking about a lot of weird stuff. I had nightmares. I was like, all right, well, I'm going to get out of the house.
Yeah, yeah. So now you've got your studio by itself. That's a good thing.
It does what it needs to do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Is there anything else on your end? We've been talking about me here. I feel like the interview got switched over to my own self, but
I've enjoyed it though. I've enjoyed getting to know you. I'm actually going to go over to a place called Antoinette Hall the end of this month for an investigation. It's a public investigation. A couple of my friends are putting it on. So that's over in Pulaski. It was an Old Star Theater, and I'm excited about that. Next month, April the 12th, Do you know who Mr. Pat Fitzhugh is? Bell Witch guy?
I know the Bell Witch, but I don't know his name. But he doesn't sound familiar.
He's the one that has done over 40 years of research on the Bell Witch family and the terror and the cave and everything that's happened. So he's written maybe 4 books on the subject. And he's going to be with me at the Night House in Hopkinsville. And the Night House is owned by Eric Freeman Sims, who's a friend of mine.
I'm going to be interviewing him next week.
Yeah, he said you, and I told him, I said, I'm going to get on there for you. But the Night House is his pretty much retirement.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and he's booking teams to come in now, and it's going pretty well for him. But we've got the second public hunt coming up April 12th, and then that's going to be from 7 until 11. But that day from 12 until 3, we're going to have us 2 authors talking about, he's going to talk about Bell Witch. I'm going to talk about signs from our loved ones. And he wants me to talk about signs for GoblinCon too. So I'm going to be speaking about signs from our loved ones. So you might hear a couple of stories again when you're up there, but hopefully you'll enjoy them. But that's what I've got going on. Just working on editing right now and trying to get these books done.
So last year I had to speak at 2 different events that were local. I talked about the upright walking canine, which that was just, it's on the place that they do this at is on the same road that this happened. So I didn't mind talking about it there. And someone listening actually stood up and said that they saw one themselves and ended up being in the same location as someone else. And then one of the other ones that I spoke at was a paranormal convention down in Crawfordsville, but I talked about all the weird stuff that goes on at my house at that one.
Oh, yeah?
So I kind of enjoyed talking just because it almost felt like I was back being in a band again. I miss that.
It's almost like performing, right?
To an extent, a little bit. People act like, oh, they can't get up there and talk in front of people or whatever. I was like, I used to get up there and scream on a microphone, look like an idiot. Like, it don't matter to me.
You know, it took me until I was 30 to be able to talk in front of people. But once I passed that, now you can't shut me up. So I can talk about just about anything with anybody. I don't know a lot. I know a little bit about a lot of different things. Not expert in anything.
That is the way I feel like I should be too. I know a little bit here and there, but at the end of the day, I don't know anything.
I don't. Still learning.
Well, it has been a pleasure talking to you. But before we wrap this up, where can everyone find your books at?
You can find my books on Amazon, Cyn Shrader Hill. You can find me on Facebook also, Cyn Shrader Hill author. My team is on Facebook, Elk Valley Paranormal. You can go to my website, elkvalleyparanormal.com, and actually listen to my EVPs and see the evidence that me and my team have caught in different places, especially the old hospital here in Lincoln County. You can also listen to all of those EVPs in my 3rd book. They're speaking, Are You Listening? There's a drop-down menu from evidence that you just click on They're Speaking, and you can hear all of them. There's over 100. If you have Kindle and you subscribe to Kindle Unlimited, all 5 of my books are free. So you can't beat that. And stay on the lookout for books 6, 7, and 8 coming to you shortly, hopefully. If you've got a story you'd like for me to consider for one of my books, please reach out to me, Cyn Shrader Hill author @gmail.com.
Awesome. Well, Cyn, it's been a pleasure talking to you.
It's been wonderful talking to you. Glad to finally meet you, and I look forward to seeing you in person.
If you'd like to be a guest on Tinfoil Tales, remember to send an email to tinfoiltalespodcast@gmail.com or go to tinfoiltales.com and go to the contact section. Make sure to follow me around on all the social medias. And just remember, truth comes at a cost. Are you willing to pay the price?
I heard a story late last night about something lurking along the wood line. Huge footprints, strange lights in the sky. They claim it's nothing, but I know they lie. It's easier to laugh in my face, but something about this makes me say, what if it's real? What if they knew? What if the answers are coming from you? Spinning stories, wasting my time, hearing voices, is it all in their minds? They can call me crazy, but I just want some proof. What if it's true? What if it's real? What if it's true? What if the world's not what we knew? Tinfoil Tales pulling me in, a story that starts where the logic ends. What if it's real? What if it's true? The answers are waiting, they're waiting for you. They see a dog man walking, or maybe a mothman flies above the buried giants, hidden beneath the lies. They say it's just stories, it's all make-believe. Fairy tales for the things we can't perceive. They want to keep us blinded, they want to break our will. But I'm not buying it, I'm not swallowing another pill. Force-fed poison, the lies we're made to believe. What if the truth could set us free? Alien signals traveling through time, secret space programs erasing their minds. They call them crazy, but I just need some proof. What if it's true? What if it's real? What if it's true? What if the world's not what we knew? Tinfoil Tales pulling me in, a story that starts where the logic ends. What if it's real? What if it's true? The answers are waiting, they're waiting for you. They laugh, they lie, we all could die, but the signs are there if you open your eyes. Aliens, cryptids, demons, ghosts, the Nephilim too. What if it's me? Or what if it's real? What if it's real? What if it's true? What if the world's not what we knew? Tinfoil Tales pulling me in, a story that starts where the logic ends. What if it's real? What if it's true? The answers are waiting, they're waiting for you. It's all in our heads, it's all in our minds. These voices can't be silenced, the truth must rise. Tinfoil Tales, it's pulling me through. What if it's real? What if it's true?